I want to talk with you today about why I left the auto repair industry. And to do that, I need to start with spelling out my education and credentials. I graduated high school in 1990 and spent a few years as an engineering major in college, but I wasn't really interested in 4 years of calculus and physics classes. So I went to Votech and I decided that I wanted to pursue an associate's degree program in auto technology. I didn't have the money for a 2-year technical school, so I enlisted in the Air Force Reserves as an aerospace ground equipment technician. Aerospace ground equipment is the equipment that gets used for maintaining aircraft. It's generators, air compressors, air conditioners, hydraulic test stands, maintenance stands, etc. All the stuff that the crew chiefs use and other shops use when they're maintaining the plane. It's a good crash course in everything mechanical, and if you have good trainers, it also teaches you good shop practices. I spent 7 months in technical training and then did on-the-job training for a few months before enrolling in the associate's program at Oklahoma State University Technical Branch in Okmulgee. At school, I went through general studies such as the GM Specialized Electrical Training course, and then I went into Nissan specific training and while interning at the local Nissan dealership. In 1998, I graduated with an associate's degree in automotive technology, and the next year the Air Force granted me my age craftsman status, meaning that I was qualified to work by myself and train other people on the job. In 1999, the dealership I was working at had a bad month, and the general manager decided to fire some people to motivate everyone else. I can admit that I was struggling in the dealership environment, and I got my pink slip. Fortunately, a reserve coworker invited me to apply with the defense contractor he was working for. And I went to work for them, and in 2006, they lost the contract they were on. The new company came in and hired and laid off half the shop. At that point, I applied with the Air Force Reserve to be a reserve air technician in their ART program. An ART is a full-time reservist. You do the job daily so that you can teach the traditional reservists when they come in 1 week in a month. I did that for 6 years and then cross-trained into maintenance management production. And in 2016, I received associate's degrees in maintenance management, production, and aerospace ground equipment maintenance. In 2019, I left the ART program to become a regular Air Force civil servant, managing supply chain for an aircraft engine. On the reserve side, I moved back to the aid shop and became a de facto shop foreman on drill weekends, instructing, motivating, and teaching shop skills. Last year, on paper, I became the shop superintendent, but in reality, I stayed on the shop floor because that was needed. At the end of this month, I will officially retire from the military. And in August, I'll have 30 years of experience in both turning wrenches and management from when I first enrolled in Votech. On top of my professional career, I've always had a strong hobby connection with cars. And with that out of the way, let's discuss why I spent more time getting my automotive technology degree than I spent in the industry itself. Right now, dealerships are complaining that they're hurting for technicians, and when they get techs, these people just don't want to work, or they don't have the necessary skills. The dealerships aren't wrong, but instead of looking at themselves, they're only pointing fingers outward. Yes, there is a lack of people who have the skills and attitude to wrench, but that's not a failure of the people, it's a failure of the employers. As I've said before, you don't get good people, you grow good people. The car manufacturers happily toss a few dollars at technical schools, thinking that this will help build a pool of trained technicians, but it's woefully inadequate, and it's only a token measure. The dealerships won't give any money to schools, and they'll only hire interns if there's a short-term profit in it. And that's the elephant in the room. Everything at an auto dealership is focused on short-term profit. Dealers do not invest time and money in training technicians. They want to hire the best techs, but they don't want to pay them, and they absolutely refuse to take the time to train technicians if there's no short-term profit in it. When it comes to educating technicians on their attitude, it's completely a sink or swim mentality. Dealerships mistakenly believe that the only way to train someone is to pay flag hours to keep them hungry. With some exceptions, the fastest, highest earning techs I knew routinely cross-threaded bolts and troubleshot by guesswork, relying on the service writer to lie on their behalf when the problem wasn't fixed. You've heard the story. Oh, the first part was bad, but this other part is what actually failed, and it caused the first part to burn out. The customer gets charged for both repairs when the first repair wasn't legitimate. The only quality assurance evaluation that dealerships employ is comebacks. If the customer pays and doesn't return, the technician is considered a success. There is nobody stopping by to look over the technician's shoulder and ensure they know what they're doing. 40 years ago, every shop had a shop foreman who motivated workers, supervised them, trained them, and ensured the success of the shop. However, short-sighted managers took a look and realized, the shop foreman doesn't directly produce any profits. They eliminated those positions. There are very few auto dealerships that still retain shop foremen. Dealerships were able to get away with this because of the boomer generation. First, there was a labor surplus, and the boomers had to compete for jobs, so they were motivated. Second, many boomers served in the military during Vietnam, or they were raised by the greatest generation. They were taught mechanical skills, and they were often pushed to take shop class in high school. Those of us in Gen X had to compete with baby boomers, but without the training and mentorship they had. And that was the beginning of the fall of the dealership service centers. There's also a lot of bad management out there. Service managers are more often promoted service writers, not techs, because sales experience is promoted over skill. Face it, if you're a people person, you're more likely to be a service writer, and your personality will get you promoted faster than that gruff technician who knows the job. Service writers are salesmen. Their job is not skilled labor. The technician turning wrenches usually has far more training and experience. The service writer might have the ability to pump up the profit, but the technician's labor is the basis of the business model. The dealership I worked at also set bonuses for managers. They set lofty goals, and if the manager met those goals, they got a nice bonus. If they failed to meet the goals too many months in a row, they got fired. Of course, they never asked how a manager met those goals. It was a case of plausible deniability. So long as it didn't get the dealership in trouble, they didn't care how the goals were met. Because of this, some managers didn't care about cheating employees. It was destructive to the dealership, but the accountants didn't care so long as the managers were meeting their goals. Short-term profits trumped everything else. Talking about profits also means talking about pay. For a technician, the pay outright sucks. When I was a tech in 1999, the dealership charged around $75 a flag hour. That price is now around $150 a flag hour. Meanwhile, here in Oklahoma, technician pay has gone from $15 a flag hour to about $21 a flag hour. According to inflation, technicians have suffered a 20% cut in pay since the turn of the millennium, while dealerships are netting a 25% gain in profits from customer pay jobs. For years, I got shareholder reports. Back when I was a tech, our dealership chain was ahead of the industry average, netting slightly over 50% profit from the service departments. When I finally ditched my stock a few years back, they were regularly over 60% profit from their service departments. That means for every $1,000 the dealership took in, $600 was pure profit. As the saying goes, don't pee on my back and tell me it's raining. At the same time the dealership was making big profits, our service manager kept coming to us saying he needed to cut prices on services to compete with other shops. One of our few gravy jobs was the timing belts on the VG engines in the Nissan Quest, Pathfinder, older Maximas. We charged 4 hours labor, plus any additional time for cam seals, belt tensioner, water pump, and resealing the block plugs. And if you sold the whole package, it was 8 hours of labor, and you could usually accomplish it in 5 hours. He told us the independent shop down the street, was charging $250 for a timing belt, while we were charging $400. He wanted us to drop our labor rate to 3.5 hours so that he could advertise $350. That was the one time I saw the technicians in our shop band together and tell him no. One of the excuses for paying technicians poorly is the claim that the service manager isn't making much more than the techs, and you can't pay the techs more than management makes. Bull! You see it every Saturday. You turn the game on, and the sports team's talent is routinely paid more than management. It's the cost of doing business. Technicians need to bring this up when they're given that excuse. Why would I care what a manager gets paid? It's not his job to turn the wrenches. I'll be brutally honest. We had a bad month and I got fired. I was fired because they wanted to motivate other employees. What I did see was that everyone at the dealership was looking for a way to rip off the company in their favor because they knew the company had no loyalty to them. The others might have been motivated, but they also had a very uncaring attitude towards our employer. I wasn't the hottest technician, and I understand that. However, there wasn't much of an attempt to grow me into an effective technician. I am the technician I am today because the Air Force invested time and money into training me. I had signed a 6-year contract. I was a sunk cost that was available to perform fleet maintenance, and the better quality of my work, the lower the maintenance was going to cost in the future. It was a long-term strategy, something dealerships absolutely suck at. I certainly worried about my future for about a week. Dealership paychecks are wildly inconsistent, so I had about a 3-month savings built up. My reserve unit put me on orders to keep me employed, but it benefited them because I was available to perform work and learn my job better. I was fortunate to get hired by a defense industry leader, and one common trait between them and the military that I really appreciated was that they would never hire someone off the street to be a boss. If someone got hired above you, it was because they had the training to be there. They might still be an idiot, but at least they had the training and qualifications. What I love now most about being in civil service is they can't fire you without due process, even in a fire-at-will state like Oklahoma. At the dealership, I got called in on a Friday afternoon and was told to take my tools home. In civil service, I would have a chance to defend my job, and I would be counseled on what I need to improve. In essence, I failed upwards. I have never looked back and wished that I still worked at the dealership. In fact, every now and then I have a nightmare that I have to go back to work for the dealership, and I relive everything that I struggled with as a technician. If I had to choose between living paycheck to paycheck at McDonald's or going back to the dealership, I'd go back to McDonald's. That's what dealerships are competing with. Do not become a dealership technician until dealerships rehabilitate themselves. Thank you.